Hello and welcome to another edition of Florida Sportsman Action Spotter Podcast. I'm Captain Rick Riles. Here's what we're going to do this evening. We're going to make a trip all the way around the state, down the East Coast, up the West Coast, and check in with each hot fishing area to find out what's going on. I tell you what, that little tropical storm had an impact on a lot of our fisheries. The East Coast had their 3-day snapper season this week. That was a joke. And overall, fishing has remained really pretty good. We're in July now, my least favorite month of the year to fish. But hey, we're making the best of it, dodging the afternoon storms. This week's Action Spotter Podcast is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Shimano, bringing people back to nature. By D.O.A. Lures, the unfair advantage. By Tournament Master Chum, the best chum on earth. By Nosara Paradise Rentals, your dream billfish vacation. And by Young Boats. You want the finest in flat spay and offshore hybrids, you need to check out youngboats.com. All right, before we get started, we're going to make a quick trip over to Billfish Paradise, Nosara, Costa Rica, and check in with my buddy Craig Sutton. I can't go without my billfish fix. Then we'll hit the state of Florida. Okay, it's time to stop in Paradise, your dream billfish destination. That, of course, Nosara Paradise Rentals in beautiful Costa Rica, and check in with our buddy Craig Sutton. Craig, how are you?
I'm good, Captain Ricky, as always. Real good to talk to you.
It's great to talk to you. I know they're still killing them in Nosara.
Yeah, the sales slowed up. There was a couple days last week. It was a little slow in the blue water, but the guys pivoted and went to rooster fishing and scored big. I just saw a picture of one. The customer called me, I think it was Thursday night or Friday night, told me he got an 80.
Woo!
And I saw the pictures of it. I don't think it's an 80. He had big eyes. It was a good 50, but I don't think it was 80. But we caught a couple of them in that class last week, too.
You take that 80-pounder and cut him in half, he's still a big fish.
Oh, yeah. I caught one that was 80.
Really?
But I caught one that was 80, but he was 70 inches long.
Wow. Wow.
And this fish, it looks like it's about 48, maybe 50 inches long. But that's okay. It's still a nice fish.
It's a great fish. Hey, I got a question for you. And this is going to tell a lot of people a whole lot about Nosara. What percentage of your customers every year are repeat?
It varies, with the COVID, the post-COVID kind of threw our numbers off.
Sure.
And I'm a stat guy and I like numbers, but, so they're a little bit skewed. But in a normal year, it's around 40%, 40 to 45.
Oh, that ought to tell everybody a lot, because for a lot of us, a trip to Nosara is a once-in-a-lifetime dream trip. If you're bringing 40-something% of those people back again, that speaks very highly of your establishment, Mr. Sutton.
Well, we're our whole focus from the day one is we give you a lot of bang for the buck. We kind of make up by really we host a lot of different people other than fishermen, and we fish a longer season than any other fishing destination in Central America. So our numbers kind of work out, but, we pick a lot. I mean, we do almost twice the number of trips with 5 boats that a lot of operations do with 10 boats, and they still don't do the volume of trips we do. I mean, we're kind of a vibe, but we've geared everything toward it's the kind of place you can afford to go every year, and sometimes 2 or 3 times a year.
Now, don't get me started on 2 or 3 times a year. I'm doing my best to be able to afford once a year, but you can count on me come August. Craig, as always, we appreciate it. And I got to tell you, I really like it when you say, you know what, Captain Rick, the billfish kind of slowed down this week, because then I know that everybody knows that you're telling it like it is when you tell us it's hot.
Well, I tell a lot of clients that call me and ask what are you catching and what's going on and all that. And I say, just go to the blog, look at it in full color. Don't take my word for nothing. and go to the blog. And we don't have every single trip up there, but there's a large percentage of them, and you can definitely get a feel for what's going on.
No doubt. Craig, as always, we appreciate it so much. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Absolutely. I'll be looking forward to it.
I look forward to it. Thank you, Craig. Captain Craig Sutton. Now we're going to hit Northeast Florida and check in with Captain David Voorhees. David, how are you?
Hey, Rick, I'm doing just fine, buddy. Just got off the water about an hour ago. And you know what, Rick? I think summer is here now.
It's hot.
I think it's finally here. Yeah, we're seeing 90-degree temperatures, 90 plus. And but luckily we're getting a sea breeze. It's not too bad. The water, Ricky, seems like it's trying to clean up. There's something. I'm almost convinced that some of this muddy water that we see a lot of is not coming from all the rain, but it's coming from offshore. Don't ask me why I think that, but I'm just thinking, how is this water cleaning up? What's going on? But it looked like, the water's a little cleaner. Of course, I've been fishing the high tide. I've been avoiding the low tide, which low tide is my favorite for redfish. But the low tide seems to be bringing in the muddy water. It seems like the fish are not quite as cooperative on that low tide. The high tide, we like to fish around that grass, right on these edges of grass. Live bait is at a premium. This time of year, every year, we tend to run out of live shrimp. The West Coast shrimp dry up. The East Coast shrimp right now that we're getting is so tiny, they don't even want to go out and catch them because they want to give them a few weeks to get moving. Yeah. So we fished with the soft plastics today. I figured either white or chartreuse would be my color of choice with this stained water. And we actually did pretty good up against the grass. I mean, when I say up against the grass, I usually tell my clients, I want you fishing within 2 to 3 feet of the grass. You get beyond that point, you bring it in and recast. Mm-hmm. All your strikes are going to happen right up against the grass edge. And that's sort of how we fish the high tides around here. I do like flipping live shrimp or live bait up against there. But you know what? We did really good with the soft plastics today.
Oh, that's encouraging. That's highly, highly encouraging. Hey, I got a question for you.
Go ahead.
All right, and I obviously I've got a lie detector hooked up to you, but I know I don't need it because you're Captain David Voorhees.
No.
Do you? All right, early in the morning, hot day.
Yep.
Customer catches a 15-inch trout.
Okay.
Right? He kind of wants to let it go because he wants to get a bigger one, but he wants you to leave it in the well and cull it if he doesn't get a bigger one. Give me your thoughts on that.
I don't do it.
Okay.
I just tell him absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm in control of my boat.
Right.
And I see young captains today, and I've seen this out on the water where they're not in control of their boat. In other words, they're letting their clients do things that I would say, stop what you're doing. You're fishing way too fast. Slow down. You got to fish. It's my way or the highway, buddy. When you're on my boat, it's my way or and I tell people right off the bat, I don't call fish. I 3 or 4 times this week we had 20-inch reds.
Mm-hmm.
I hold them up to the clients. I said, it's a 20-inch red. I think we can do better. What do you want to do? You want to kill this fish or do you want to release it? That's the choices they have. And it goes right on ice if they want to kill it, And Ricky, every one of them released those 20-inch fish, and sure enough, later we got a 26-incher.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
So I do not cull fish. Never have, never will, not going to do it. Not on my boat. You step on my boat, there's only one captain, and it's me. So, I'm just not going to do it. I don't like to cull trout. Trout don't do good in the live well. They just don't make it. We're going to either kill this fish now or we're letting them go now.
I like it.
Make that. It's
I like
your
it.
fish. Your fish. You make the decision. But remember, you only got one more to go, and if you get two 26-inchers, you're only going home with one 20-incher and one 26-incher.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I like it. I love your attitude. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And what brought it up, David, was seeing the boats on the snapper season yesterday, and it just makes me sick. I mean, the whole thing. But the worst part to me is to see a boat anchored up, the same spot for an hour or two, and there may be 10, 15 fish floating behind them. Because they wanted a bigger one. And part of that, I hate to say it, but David, part of that is Facebook. You got to be able to throw that picture up there on Facebook with you and your buddy with 20-pounders, or you're inadequate. Well, for us yesterday on Steve Proctor's boat, I fished with him for snapper season. I believe it was on Saturday. Now I think about it, we actually released 2 fish that we knew were in very good shape, were properly vented, went back down like rocket ships, and replaced them. Every other fish that we caught came on the boat, and we were done snapper. The snapper season, David, took us 10 minutes. All right, that's all it took, because we fished big baits with big hooks and on places where we knew there were big fish. The last thing I want to see on my boat during snapper season is a 5-pound box of cigar minnows, because that's crying for a 2-pound snapper to eat it. I would much rather fish with a Boston mackerel, a big whole pinfish, something like that, a big slab of bonita, something that sets me up to catch a 10-pounder. My size range on snapper is 8 to 12 pounds. I don't really want them bigger than 12, and I don't really want them smaller than 8. But if I do happen to catch one that is hooked badly, that is smaller than 8, he's going home with me. That's my fish.
Right.
And there's certainly no culling fish and watching them float away. I don't like that a bit. But as always, we appreciate the heck out of it. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
You know where I'll be, Ricky.
Thank you, Captain David. We'll talk with you soon. Captain David Voorhees. Captain David, along with all our action spotters, is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Shimano, bringing people and nature back together. By D.O.A. Lures, the unfair advantage. By Tournament Master Chum, it's the best chum on earth. By Nosara Paradise Rentals, your dream billfish destination. And by Young Boats. You want the finest in flat spay and offshore hybrids? You need to check out youngboats.com. Our thanks to Captain David Voorhees for a great Northeast Florida report. Now, let's swing down to the East Central section and talk with our buddy, Captain Jim Ross. Jimmy, how are you?
I'm doing great, Rick. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. What's going on in East Central?
Well, the reefs are trying to recover.
Good.
The snapper are probably rubbing their sore lips because there was billions and billions caught, if you will, over the last 3 days. Unfortunately, I'm not a fan. I'm just not a fan of these 3-day goat ropes because we still have people that are catching 5-pound snappers, throwing them on ice, and they catch a 10-pounder later in the day and throwing the 5-pounder back overboard.
We just had that conversation.
That is not how you conserve a fishery. It just isn't. And I'm going to leave it at that. Here's the bottom line. We had ambulances at the boat ramp because people were launching before dawn and ran into the rocks next to the floating docks. We had guys that stepped off of their boats onto the floating docks, but because there was so many boats going out of the port, the floating docks were bouncing around like it was a hurricane going on in there. Had guys fall off the floating docks, hit their head on the rocks. More ambulances had to come for that. In my opinion, National Marine Fisheries Service really needs to either stop it altogether or decide that there's enough fish in that ocean that we can have a real season, because they're putting people's lives and people's equipment in jeopardy with their regulations and their silly little mini seasons that they're putting on right now. So now that I've had my rant, we have plenty of red snapper to catch and release all the rest of the year. So if you like to do catch and release, like you're catching bull reds or you're catching tarpon, come on down. We got red snapper to 30 pounds. We'll take you out. We'll put you on them. If you can get them out of the rocks, you'll land them. If you can't, you got your butt whooped, and that's just how it is when you tangle with big fish like that. But We've got tarpon on the beach. We got king mackerel on the beach. We even had a couple of cobia show up here on some of the nearshore wrecks this past week. So the offshore waters overall we're doing pretty good. And I think the key is, Rick, a couple of those pogies slipped through that netting that you had stretched across the ocean up there where you're at. And they got down our way, and they have fish with them.
That's fantastic. Of course, we knew it was coming. It was just a matter of when. We've still got them up here, and I agree with everything you said. It's just so sad what's going on right now. And we had tragedies up here because of, people going that either weren't properly prepared or there were just too many boats on the water. But anyway, be that as it may, you heard anything from the trolling boats?
No.
Quiet?
No. Haven't heard. It's been very quiet on the troll. Now, here's the funny thing. More dolphin were caught by guys out of South Canaveral and Sebastian and Vero while they were snapper fishing than I talked to anybody who was catching them on the troll.
I had that exact same experience. I saw guys come in with their 4 red snapper and 8 mahi,
that just swam up to the boat while they had a bait down for the reds. Yeah, exactly.
Which they do, and thank God for it, because it.
Thank God for pitch rods, right?
Adds to your catch, right? Anything going on inshore?
Well, I was supposed to be scalloping this weekend, and unfortunately, I had a mishap with my trailer and had to get some repair work done on it. But I picked it up Saturday morning, and I took Miss Robin out, and we did not go anywhere near a boat ramp that led to the ocean. We went to one that led to the Indian River, and there was 4. Now this is 1:00 in the afternoon on Saturday. It's dead slick calm, and there's 4 boats and trailers, 4 trucks and trailers at the boat ramp that holds probably 45 boats, and I was like, perfect. So stop number 1, I treated Saturday's trip just like I would a Monday through Friday trip. I went to all my regular spots. I didn't go to the community holes, if you will. I went to all my regular spots. Miss Robin got her some trout. I got myself some trout. She got herself some redfish. And I said, you know what? I got a spot. It's about a 9-mile run, but I'm almost guaranteed that you're going to catch a snook there on the first or second cast. And so we made the run up the river. I pulled in there, and second cast, she caught her first snook, and her third cast, she caught her second snook. And I said, well, you got a slam, and it's not even 4 o'clock. Let's go home and cook something on the grill.
You can't beat that, Cap. That's very strong. Nope. Very, very strong. But it's funny. I said tonight's question was going to be, do you believe in culling fish? For your customers, and I've about decided I don't need to ask that the day after snapper season. there's plenty of people upset, myself included, over what we saw over the weekend.
Not necessarily culling. I feel like if you've put a fish on ice, that's a kept fish. If you've put a fish in a live well and that fish is still in good shape and can be released successfully, that's a different scenario. But once he's sucking ice, I mean, you're throwing him back overboard. He's nothing but chum at that point.
That's right.
You've just wasted that fish, and so to me, that's terrible. One thing that we do, a lot of the guides in the Mosquito Lagoon Indian Banana River Complex have to do, because our dolphin population is so strong down here. Mammal dolphin is so strong.
Right.
We actually, I've had days where I've had 20, 22 trout in my live well, because the dolphins will not leave you alone. You try to move down the flat, here they come again. You try to move again, here they come again. And they encircle the boat, 5, 6, 7 of them at a time. And everything that you release, they eat. And so I've gotten to the point where I will just keep them in the live well until I've jumped on plane and ran far enough down the river that I don't see a blowhole in sight or a dorsal fin in sight. And then I'll pull over and I'll put them, out on a grass patch or out on, next to some mangroves. And, but I didn't have to worry about keeping, we weren't keeping those fish. We were just keeping them alive so that they didn't, get hammered the second that we put them back over the side of the boat by the dolphins.
Yep, I understand. Jimmy, as always, we appreciate it so much. Sounds like your fishing's really pretty good, unless you happen to be in the blue water trolling, but July is not the month to be in the blue water trolling, so that's okay. But if it's all right, we'll check with you next week and see what's going on.
I'm looking forward to it, Rick. I tell you what, there's a lot of fish to be caught through the summertime. You just have to change your tactics a little bit, and you can get it done.
Exactly right. Thank you, Cap. Now, let's move on down to Stuart, Florida. I got a funny feeling they were catching red snapper down there this week, too. Captain John, how are you?
I'm good, Rick. Glad to be here.
Good, good. How was your whopping 3-day snapper season?
Well, I got to tell you, I took full advantage. It was pretty easy. I got a couple of spots where I always know there's red snappers. We went out, we did our one drop, we caught our limit, and then we went and did something different. We didn't get any really giant fish, but, we were having a 5 to 10 pound average. There were a few 20 pounders caught here and there, but, on average, you can expect to catch 5 to 10 pound red snappers, when we do get the season and if we get a season each year. I like seasons in July because these fish are spawning in July. Almost every fish I catch is full of roe. So, it's good and it's bad because when they're spawning like that, they're going to be balled up together real tight, and they're going to be relatively easy to catch.
John, how do you feel? I've asked this to a couple of our guys. I'll ask it to you. You're anchored up on first day of snapper season. A guy drops down and he catches a 20-inch fish, a 5 to 6 pound fish. It is hooked bad, all right, and you're not going to be able to revive that fish. Is that his fish? Is that what you're doing, or are you allowing him to cull if he catches a bigger fish? What's the policy on your boat?
My policy is if you catch a small fish and there's no way to revive it and send it back, unfortunately, that's your fish. And I just tell the clients right off the bat, or my friends, whoever I'm going with, I say, listen, if you want to catch big red snappers, use big bait.
Right.
If you want to just catch a red snapper, drop a bait down there and let's get your fish. I'm not a guy that wants to just kill endless amounts of fish to get a big fish. But, if there's an opportunity for me to only target big fish, I'm just going to use big baits, and I'm going to eliminate that whole trying to weed through small ones to get big ones. If they only want to get big ones, I only send big baits down.
I couldn't agree more. You're not going to catch a 5-pound red snapper on an 8-inch pinfish. It's going to require a bigger fish or a 10-inch grunt. It's going to require a bigger fish to eat him, and that's what I want to specialize in using. Whole Boston mackerel, another good bait. What have you heard about besides red snapper lately?
The sailfishing's been on an uptick, believe it or not. I may be wrong, Rick. The sailfishing seems like it's a little bit here. See a lot of guys are catching 6 to 10 fish.
Don't tell me that. Don't tell me that.
You're going to have to get down here because it seems like the sailfishing's been pretty steady right out front. 90 to 160 feet of water, slow trolling live greenies or live sardines. I'd rather have the live greenies just because they're a little bit bigger profile. Sardines, we're catching a lot of bonitas, some mahi, a couple blackfins, and even some cobias slow trolling or kite fishing right now when there's enough wind to kite fish. But, most guys are bump trolling with mylar dredges, and it seems like, the sailfishing's definitely improved over the past couple days. So I would expect good numbers of sailfish in the following days. Bottom fishing's been good for mutton snappers, a few groupers here and there, and a lot of amberjacks. So, we've got pretty much good all-around bottom to top fishing in Stuart right now if you're fishing offshore.
Perfect. That's a great report. John, that's a mixed blessing. I don't know whether to come back down and go sail fishing again or not. Seems like they may be warming up again on this next full moon.
Yeah, very well may be.
Heard anything on the inshore? How the snook doing?
Snook fishing's been relatively good. Using sardines, thread fins, pilchards, catching a lot of breeder fish right now. We're getting them up close to 40 inches. So we're getting a quick picture with them, reviving them, and sending them back. I've seen schools of 30 to 50 fish, maybe more than that, but I'm going to say conservatively, there's some larger schools around the St. Lucie Inlet. It's relatively easy to target, catch a couple of them and then go do something different. You don't need to sit on the school all day and catch 240-inch fish. It's not healthy for them. and, get your picture and go do something different. There's been some tarpon around, both along the beaches and in the river. Plenty of big jacks, some smaller snappers, some cuberas, so we've got a good mixed bag. And I've seen an occasional redfish here and there while we're live bait fishing. Maybe put a weight on a bait, get it closer to the bottom if you want to catch redfish or cubera snappers right now.
Perfect. John, that's an excellent report. Please tell me we can check in with you next week.
Yep, look forward to talking to you all next week.
Captain John Earhart from the Chaos and the Mayhem out of Stuart, Florida. Okay, we're going to take it down south a little ways and check in with the mayor of South Beach. But before that, let's get a word from Shimano. Funk and Wagnalls defines symmetry as similar parts combined in perfect balance. Shimano and Strike Zone define symmetry as the perfect spinning combo for whatever you're targeting. You can't beat the balance and performance of the Shimano Symmetry spinners for freshwater and inshore saltwater fishing. Outfits like Symmetry are the reason for stopping at any of the Strike Zone stores. Not only are the Shimano Symmetry spinners the perfect balance rod and reel, they're also on sale at Strike Zone for $99. One of the biggest mistakes new anglers make is fishing outfits that are out of balance. If you try to balance your own Shimano outfit, you almost can't get the most out of your cast inshore or put the maximum pressure on a sea monster offshore. The symmetry between Strike Zone and Shimano, the perfect balance for all your fishing needs. All right, time to hit South Beach and check in with Captain Alan Sherman. Alan, how are you?
I'm doing fine, Rick. At the moment, I'm high and dry, which is good because I wasn't earlier. It was pretty darn wet.
Yep, a lot of rain, or was the water coming out of the ocean?
No, the water was coming from the sky and in buckets. We had some big squalls come through with 60-mile-an-hour winds. Luckily, they didn't hit us, but we did get plenty of rain and chased us off the water early. But while we were on the water, we did catch some fish. We were able to find a nice school of pilchards and loaded up some live wells, and then took them to a nice spot and had steady action from 6 and 8 pound Jack Crevalles and yellow jacks from a pound to about 8 pounds. We had plans of trying to fish for some other species, but before we could get up and go, the rains moved in, and it just circled around us and then caught us. So we had a long ride back to the boat ramp in the rain, which wasn't any fun, but at least they got into some steady action from the jacks and yellow jacks and had some sashimi for later. On the offshore side, yeah, it was fun. On the offshore side, the fishing's been tough. The kingfish, bonitas, blackfin tunas, sailfish, all of that kind of slowed down. There's fish out there, but there's not a lot of them. I think if you're an offshore fisherman and you're fishing live baits or ballyhoo on a jig or something like that, vertical jigs, you're going to find a lot of bonitas to catch. That'll keep your rod spent, but not a lot of the quality fish, we're always looking for. The dolphin fishing has tapered off as well. There's fish out there, but instead of being in 800 to 1,000 feet of water, these fish have moved out to 1,500 or more.
Holy
So if you're a dolphin, fisherman, you're going to have to get up early and start. I wouldn't start fishing for the fish until I hit 800 feet. And then from that point, if I didn't find them right away, I just keep moving east, southeast until I found some action. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was 1,600, 1,800 feet of water before you get into them.
Alan,
yes.
It's been my experience, and I think I know how you're going to answer this. The one thing about dolphin is you got to have something to fish on. You can't say, all right, there's no bites here in 800, let's troll out to 1,500, because before you know it, your day's gone and you haven't found anything. Don't you always have to have a rip, a piece of debris, or something that's going to hold a dolphin for you to stop?
Well, this year, and like most years, there's been quite a few big patches of sargasso weeds along weed lines. And that's really where the fish have been. There hasn't been giant schools of them. There've just been fish working the lines and concentrating on the bigger patches. There hasn't been a lot of bait under the patches. Usually you're going to find the little file fish and triggerfish and some shrimp, the shrimp they get in the grasses and crabs. There hasn't been stuff like that in the grass. The little jacks haven't been there. There's been a ton of Almaco jacks, like half-pound to three-quarter-pound Almaco jacks. But there's not the small ones that you would, try and sabiki rig and put on a hook and throw back out for a dolphin. So these fish, the dolphin that are out there, they're not in big numbers. They're constantly moving. And, you just have to, work the lines and hit a patch, find some birds working. And that's the way it's been. No, I wouldn't suggest trolling all the way out there. I'd run and gun until I found something, floating debris, sargasso weeds, or some birds.
Yeah, it's a great tip. Much going on back in the bays?
Well, before we hit the bays, the best fishing we have right now is the bottom fishing. Day and night, the bottom fishing's been pretty good. There's vermilion snappers and mutton snappers and yellow-eyed snappers that are biting around many of the artificial reefs, anywhere from the 100-foot wrecks on out to, say, 240, 260. You got to hit a few wrecks before you find one that's got some fish on it. But once you find one, there's a good chance you're going to get a number of yellow eyes, vermilions, and maybe some big muttons. And cut squid's the way to go on a chicken rig, or you can put it on a long leader as well. Those fish are out there and they're biting. The other good bottom fishing continues to be the nighttime bottom fishing over the natural reefs, anywhere from 25 feet on out to about 90 feet of water. You got a little bit of current that helps, north current especially. But there's plenty of mangrove spawning. You're allowed 5 per person, 10 inches or better. And then mixed in with the mangroves have been yellowtails and mutton snappers. And it's not hard to get a 10 snapper limit this time of the year. You mentioned the bay fishing. There's sea trout to be caught on the grass flats. If you can find a grass flat that has some life to it, throw in artificials like a hookup lure jig head, a 1/4 ounce, tipped with an artificial shrimp. That's been working really well. It covers a lot of water. You can fan cast that until you start getting strikes. Or if you have a live well full of pilchards, you can fish them under a Cajun Thunder float, and that works really well for them. There's been some snook in the ocean inlets, a few tarpon, and then there's been bonefish and permit on the flats down south in South Biscayne Bay on the ocean side especially. And that kind of wraps it up for South Florida.
That's fantastic. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a good week's report right there. Obviously, the offshore fishing. It's July, Alan. I mean, we keep wishing for great blue water trolling in July, but it rarely really happens. I mean, let's
it's the summer doldrums.
Yep.
The bright sun, lots of heat. But here in South Florida, we're not seeing a lot of that. We're seeing a lot of clouds. We're getting quite a bit of rain right now. It's almost a daily event, and it's supposed to last for the next couple of days. The weekend, it's supposed to break, and hopefully we'll get in some good fishing. Rick, I just wanted to mention something. My son was up in Jacksonville over the weekend, and he limited out on red snappers,
sure
man. It was hot fishing, up to like 16, 18 pounds.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Good.
Wow.
Good fishing. It was as good as it gets. It's a shame they do it the way they do it. There's negative consequences every year. I just wish we had a better system. There's no shortage of snapper.
I looked at the pictures of some of those fish. I haven't seen the fillets yet because he hasn't gotten home yet. But they look like their bellies. They look like they might have been spawning.
They are. They're spawning in July. That's one of the many problems with the 3-day system. 3-day season.
Wow.
I know why they do it. They do it because
why?
the weather is stable in July.
Okay.
And the kids are out of school. So I can sort of kind of understand that. Now what their issue is that they have to have so many FWC officers at the boat ramps checking the boats, and they have to plan for that. So they've got to plan a day well in advance, which means that they can't decide 48 hours before, oh, we're sorry, the weather's bad. All you guys have got the weekend off. You got to work another time. Or I understand that there are logistical problems. I know that there's a better system, and I know that the fishermen have totally lost faith in the current system. And that's dangerous, Alan, because when the fishermen don't believe in things, they're not necessarily going to adhere to them, if you know what I'm saying.
I do. I just don't like seeing these fish targeted so heavily when they're spawning.
Don't like it at all. You know? Don't like anything about it. And there's much better systems we could do. Gotcha. Tags would work. Slot limits would work. There's just all kind of better things we could do. Cap, I appreciate it. Can we check in with you next week and make sure Miami's still in one piece?
I mean, definitely, for sure. Look forward to it.
Thanks, Captain Alan. That was Captain Alan Sherman, the mayor of South Beach in Miami.
You know what Yamaha Outboards love? The genuine formula and consistency of Yamalu marine engine oils. What? Outboards are subjected to punishing conditions like high loads, salt, and humidity, a mix that automotive oils can't handle. Yamalu full synthetic and marine performance formulas are certified to protect against friction and corrosion for reliable performance every time. Find Yamalu marine oils at your nearest Yamaha Outboard dealer. Locate them at yamahaaoutboards.com/dealers. Yamaha, reliability starts here.
Hey, Raj, being consistent is a mark of a quality product. If you've been Florida's #1 chum for over 10 years, there's got to be a reason.
For 10 years, Tournament Master Chum has lived up to its name. That's why more tournament pros insist on Tournament Master than any other chum. It's the only chum with menhaden milk mixed right in. That means it gets the scent out faster and deeper than any other brand of chum. It comes in a grind size for every species from kingfish to catching bait. Your fishing time is way too precious to use second-rate chum. Bring the action to you by insisting on Tournament Master Chum. It's worth every penny.
When you're ready for the finest in custom-made flat spay or inshore-offshore hybrids, you are ready to meet the Young family in Inglis, Florida. For over 21 years, the Young family has built custom boats one at a time for every type of fishing. Nothing can sneak up on a flat quite like the Gulf Shore flats boats, and I've never fished a better hybrid than the Young 24s and 27s. Rob Young is a naval architect who takes tremendous pride in each and every build for each and every customer that wants their boat custom built exactly the way they want it. Is it time for you to move up? Are you ready to own the finest boat built? Then you need to visit the Young Boat facility in Inglis, Florida, or check them out online at youngboats.com. All right, thanks to Alan Sherman for a great report out of Miami. Now let's cut across the state and check in with Captain Steve Dahl in 10,000 Islands. How we doing, Steve?
Well, we're doing real good. How are you, Rick?
Well, I'm good. We have survived another snapper season. The weather was good. The fishing was better. It was red hot, and I'm glad it's over. I hated it. I hate the whole concept. We need a better system, but be that as it may, I want to hear what's going on in 10,000 Islands.
Yeah, I'm with you. Let's move on from the red snapper debacle. We're doing really good. Still down in the 10K. I mean, the inshore bite's still hot. I mean, we're still finding trout and some decent ones, some really nice ones. So that's actually a plus because obviously the cooler water usually helps that. But I think with the rains and things we're having now that we're in full swing in summer, it's kind of keeping those water temperatures down a little bit, which is good, and getting that afternoon cloud cover. So trout, plenty of them out there. Low tides, focus on, the passes, some of the deeper holes, and then, as the tide comes in, focus on the grass flats. Pretty simple stuff. The other thing is that we're starting to see the redfish. We're not seeing the concentrations of them that you'll see in the fall, but we're seeing some bigger fish, and that's really nice. Definitely some over slot fish, which are a lot of fun to play with, and definitely some upper slot fish too. And you're not going to find a whole bunch of them in certain areas, but it's not uncommon if you're going to dedicate the morning to it, that you might catch a half a dozen really good ones. And we're catching them both on artificials, pretty much like 3.5 inch, paddle tail swim bait. Pretty simple stuff. The water's dark. Stay with a little bit darker hue to get yourself a bigger silhouette, and then stick with more of your bait fish hues if you got the clean water. So. Anything with kind of a gold tint or a copper tint is doing real well, and it allows you to kind of be mobile. So keep that in mind. And then the snook fishing, 1 week it's on fire, the other week it's just okay. this past week was another on fire thing. I don't know if it was relative to the new moon, but the reality is some of those bigger female fish are still around, and lots of fish in that lower 30-inch range up to 35 inches, and some bigger fish, pushing 40 inches with a few reported catches in our area over 40. And one local captain got a nice 46-incher for his customer, a 12-year-old boy, which is awesome.
Man,
so,
that's a bigger snook than I've ever seen, Steve.
That's a big one. That's a giant. We don't get many. We don't get the classic 40 inches that the East Coast generally does. A 40-inch one that makes them. Or anything over 45 is just a beast. We might get a handful of those a year. So, but yeah, inshore side's doing really good.
All right, let me ask you a quick question on our way out here. You have guys that want to keep trout all the time, right?
Yeah, I do.
All right. You catch a 15-inch trout in the summertime, which you and I both know they don't do great in hot water. In the summertime, and he wants you to keep that trout while he fishes for a bigger one. Can you do it?
Mm-hmm. Can I do it, or will I do it?
Will you do it?
I will not.
You will not.
I will not. And, this is where, again, we try to be responsible stewards of our resource, and I think this is part of our jobs as captains to educate our customers. I think all fish, in that sense, get extremely stressed out, sitting in the live well. Mm-hmm. And especially if you're moving spot to spot. My roots are in tournament bass fishing. I've done a ton of that, and mortality rates are actually pretty low with live weigh-ins, and you're allowed to cull, replace a bigger fish with a smaller fish in your live well, and that's part of that practice. But bass boats are geared a little bit differently from aeration systems. There's treatments that you can put in the water. You're kind of a little bit more geared to keeping those 5 fish alive. We do that in redfish tournaments as well if it's a live release tournament, but we're starting to see a huge trend in saltwater inshore tournaments where we're not doing the live releases. We're actually seeing FWC kind of pull away from giving us exemptions to be able to do that. And I think it's for the benefit of the fish. I just look at, these fish get beat up, they're, not, they're building up, stress and lactic acids in their body. And, while that fish may swim away, it's that old adage, is it going to survive down the road? And I'm not 100% sure on that. So I've kind of taken the approach where I just don't want to risk that, and, while you're certainly going to get a lot more meat out of a 22-inch trout than you are a 15-inch trout, I mean, that's fishing. That's the way I look at it.
I got to tell you, to me, the $64 question, and I don't think we'll ever know it, is let's take a trout, or you can take a sailfish, you can take any kind of fish you want to take, and you let that fish go, and it swims away. Well, it's not swimming away at the rate it was swimming when it hit that bait. I've always wondered how long they're in danger. I mean, if they're swimming slowly along, you and I can feel all good about releasing them, and that shark can feel all good about eating them 5 minutes later. But do they recover in time to get away from predators? And that's the $64 question that we don't know.
Yeah, we don't. And, I'll even add to that a little. It's a great point, Rick, and I'll even add to that of, you get that as you release that fish, you're gingerly, releasing that fish, you're weighing it in the water, you're helping revive it, letting some oxygen, get through, some current get through their gills. And then they usually get that big burst of energy, right? Where they kind of kick their tail and they're gone. Mm-hmm. And, is that just, I'm getting away? And what is that fish? I find it hard to believe sometimes that fish is just going to be back to normal and active. That's a lot of stress.
I don't know. We'll never know.
I don't know either, and, I'd like to think we're trying to do all the right things. And I think we are. I think catch and release works, and our practices are better at handling fish. But, putting fish in a live well to kind of upgrade, if you will, just for harvest, I don't think is a good practice in my opinion. I don't do it.
I can tell you that an awful lot of redfish survive, Steve, only because every redfish we catch in the intercoastal up here right now has got hook holes in him where he's been caught before, and I'm thankful for that. I'm glad that's happening.
I think that's a really resilient fish. You know, I think a redfish, and I think, you know, that's a reason we do have, you know, some success with the inshore tournaments and things that avail when targeting reds, you know, but specifically the trout, too fragile a fish to begin with. And I just don't practice that.
Yep, I agree with you. Cap, thank you so much. Let's make sure we get a chance to talk next week, all right?
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to it.
You got it. Thank you, Steve. Captain Steve Dahl from 10,000 Islands. Now we're going to move up into the southwest section. But, you know, before we go there, let's check in with D.O.A. for a word from them. Hey, you know, it's finally getting really hot. And, of course, that means the water is warming up every day. And just like the great fish always do, the biggest and the baddest of so many of the species we fish for will soon be holding in deeper water in an attempt to cool off. You name it, if it feeds deeper in the water column, it can't refuse a D.O.A. terrorize. It dives straight down and crawls across the bottom with an action that no deep feeder can resist. Whether it's a crappie deep under some lily pads or a tarpon rooting around the pilings of a bridge, D.O.A. makes a size and color terrorize that they can't say no to. Good gracious, flashing that big bright eye in front of any bottom-feeding game fish is just unfair. Maybe that's why they call D.O.A. lures the unfair advantage. Our thanks to Steve Dahl for updating us on 10,000 Islands. Now let's pull up into the southwest area and talk with one of my favorite guides anywhere, Captain Greg Stamper from Snook Stamp Charter. Snooky, how we doing?
I'm doing very good, Rick. I'm sure you've been out there doing a little bit of sail fishing this week. I've been catching a whole bunch of juvenile tarpon and the big boys.
Good deal. Good deal. I'm glad that's holding steady for you. We actually had our 3-day red snapper season this weekend. I never want to see another one.
I don't know why they give you so many days. I just don't understand that.
Oh, just shut up.
We'll go there some other time.
That's right.
Hey, but seriously, the guys who've been going offshore, there's been a few days where it was a little bit tougher, but they've been doing very well. I have noticed, though, that the snapper, the red snapper we're talking about, that are big are coming from the deep water. Mm-hmm. So you still got to get out there 150, 160 plus if you want to get some of these big boys. But quite honestly, Rick, if you get in there in 100 feet and you know kind of the ledges where it may drop 3-4 feet, which in my neck of the woods, that's like a Grand Canyon. They're still catching them in those ballparks.
You know, I got to tell you something, and I wish I could get more people to listen to this. If you've got a 30-pounder and I've got a 10-pounder, I will not trade you.
No, I want the small. You know, in general, Rick, for basically most species, the smaller fish are the better ones. Now, you can go too small, like a 10-inch snapper is kind of like, okay, what are you doing? But, you know, a small cobia would be way better than a big one. Other smaller fish like the trout and stuff, way better than a big one, et cetera, et cetera. And, of course, there are a few that are absolutely delicious. Like, I'll take the 80, 90-pound wahoo if you want,
Isn't
Rick.
that
if you
funny?
got a 10-pounder.
Isn't that funny? Dolphin, if it gets over 35, I don't want to eat it. I caught I've caught 350s in my life, and we've eaten them all, but they were not good. All right, the 12-pounders are much better. But wahoo,
I'm right there.
Wahoo, a 10-pounder, a 100-pounder, tastes exactly the same, and I don't know why.
I know. It's crazy. Certain fish are like that, but there's not a lot that are like that. So
yeah.
Pay attention, to that, because that is reality. The big boys aren't always the ones you want to keep. You want to let those go so they grow and produce way more of them.
Oh, I kept a 77-pound cobia one time and lost almost every friend I have. I wouldn't
want that.
I gave them all fish, and they're like, Rick, you said that cobia was good? And I didn't know. But
I thought you liked me. I thought you liked me, right?
Yeah, but you give me that 28 every time, and I'm a happy boy. So tell me about your fishing.
All right, so my back bay fishing has been really good this entire week. So, Rick, these juvenile tarpon, that's like an early morning thing for me. I like to start super early as the sun's coming up, I get myself about an hour or two of the sun coming up. If we don't have overcast, we move on. But the great part is that we move on to things that people can actually catch and keep right now. We usually start with a few trout here and there. We can keep our 6 per boat, so that does not take very long. And after that, we go right to the snook fishing, which continues to be fantastic on both cut ladyfish, mullet, and definitely, this is a new one, some cut ballyhoo, Rick.
Really? I've never thought of that. I've used it, but I've never thought of it being a prime bait. Now, are you talking about fresh ballyhoo that you caught or frozen ballyhoo that are sold to troll with?
So I had the opportunity about a month or two ago in the Back Bay when we had a lot of big white bait. When I chum for them, you get these schools of ballyhoo that came, that these ballyhoo were only about 6 or 7 inches, right? But I get a few in my net every time I threw my net. So I saved them, I salted them, I threw them in my freezer, and I busted them out this week as like a special event. Let's see what happens. And by God, they love those things too. So it worked out good. I don't even know, Rick, if it's something totally different, and they're like, man, what is this? I might want to try this, but it's working wonders for me this week. And we'll see what happens in the future. I might buy a few ballyhoo here and there because we don't have a ton of them, but it's been good for me.
That's fantastic. I'll be darned. I wondered, and you said you brined them when you put them up. So obviously I need to give another look to using cut ballyhoo for bait. That's great news. Anything else important happening? How about the big tarpon?
The big tarpon fishing has been good on some days, not good on others. I had it one day this week where I went out there and I did catch me a couple nice sized fish. I had one day where we tried it for an hour and a half, and I tell people sometimes tarpon fishing is like hours of boredom followed by complete chaos, and that's what happened that day. So in general, though, there's still plenty of tarpon. The guys who are fishing for these permit are really having a great time. And honestly, Rick, I don't know if you go around the state if you're going to find better permit fishing in general. We're not talking about flats fishing. We're talking about these wrecks and reefs than what we have here on the West Coast. I would say, you can ask the next guy you talk to, is it happening like that in Tampa down, or is it just my region down?
I think it's your area, Greg Stamper. I got to tell you, I've talked to an awful lot of guys in an awful lot of areas, and they have not reported the kind of permit that you guys are seeing, and certainly not the size. So I think you may well be the epicenter of permit fishing for Florida.
Love it.
Okay, buddy. Hey, thanks for a great report as always. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
You got it, Rick. Tight lines.
Thanks, Greg. Now we're going to pull up to West Central with my old buddy Ray Markham. Ray, how are you?
Just kind of chilling here in between little rain showers.
Boy, we've had some thunderstorms this year, haven't we?
Boy, haven't we, though, man. Well, everything seems to have kind of calmed down after last week's little ruckus with Elsa kind of moving through. But, the guys that are getting offshore, getting deep offshore where the water's a little cleaner and a little bit calmer, they've gotten to the point where they're actually catching some nice fish. For a few days there when it was rough and guys were still sitting at home just kind of chafing at the bit, they knew that those fish are going to be all hunkered down waiting to eat. And but as soon as things kind of cleared out, these guys took off, and beyond 100 feet, what I'm hearing has been like the best they've seen in quite some time. They're really catching a lot of lane snapper. They're catching a few mangoes, some red grouper, lots of red snapper way beyond. And they say the red snapper bites it's been really good. And actually they've been catching a few mahi-mahi, some wahoo, and a few kingfish. It's crazy. Last week, so they all of a sudden started getting kingfish. And again, the blackfin tuna they're starting to get. It's been hit and miss, but they've been working on it, and they've actually, the only time that some of party boats get to fish for those fish is either on a flat line or if they're slow going out and trolling. And lot of times they'll have several guys that are trolling out the transom and, for whatever bites. And I've personally witnessed these guys pulling in some big kingfish, 40-foot pound, 50-pound kingfish, and some wahoo and some blackfin and everything else that while they're just trying to get out to where they're going to fish.
Do you, Ray, have any idea what they're trolling with for bait?
I want to say they're using a lot of Rapalas.
Yeah.
Some of the deep diving plugs, big lip plugs.
Yep.
There's several others, and it escapes me at the moment. But there are several plugs that they're trolling with out there that are really doing well. There's some mirror lures that they're using, some of the big lip mirror lures. And there's one in particular that I can't think of right offhand, but that they're using just mostly, deep diving kind of baits.
Well,
and they're running 30 feet or so, 30, 40 feet.
I can tell you that the CD18s, the older Apollo with the metal lips,
I don't think you can get those anymore, can you?
Yep, you can still get them. Yep.
Really?
You can buy them online at rapala.com. And the Man's Stretch 25s and 30s.
Yes. I know the names
really
they've been using for a long time as well. They've got one that it's one that is just in the last year started making a big splash over here. That they're using and having really, really good success with it. I'll find out and tell you next week.
Is that the Nomad?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Nomad.
Yep.
You hit it.
Yep.
Mini. Yep.
They build a lip diver that supposedly, I haven't tried it yet, but supposedly you can pull it up to 20 knots and it'll track straight.
Yeah, it doesn't blow out. So it's really been an effective lure from a lot of people that I'm hearing from. So it might be on your list of things to get for Santa when, he makes his trip this year.
Good, because I need to spend some more money on tackle. I don't spend near enough.
Yeah, that's for sure. But you know what? Inshore, we're taking another hit. We've got more and more red tide that's popping up. Seems to be getting stronger versus the other way around. I was really hoping maybe the storm would do something to kind of clear it out. But in fact, I think it's kind of done the opposite. I think the storm runoff from different places that in the last month or so stopped fertilizing and whatnot have kind of made an issue there. Plus the fact that with all the extra rain that we've had in some places up to a foot of rain, and for instance, like the Piney Point area where they have those retention ponds where all of that stuff was being collected that was making such a nasty mess out there. I'm not so sure that stuff hadn't started to overflow and is kind of spilling out again. It's not been good, and from the reports I've had, it's even heading a little further south towards Longboat. But the guys that are doing well with inshore species like snook and big redfish, they've been fishing the beaches. That's all I can see, because the pictures I'm seeing, these fish are completely silver. They're lying to me because they're telling me they're catching in some backwater place, when I know all the backwaters got this clean looking pea color, and they tell me, oh yeah, I caught it way back over in by the mangroves, and I'm like, not. So
too funny.
But no, your answer to a question, I know this is on your mind. Do I allow culling on my boat? Oh no, not no, just hell no.
Oh, I think that pretty well sums up your attitude about it.
Well, I talk to people before we fish, and I tell them what my boat rules are. My boat rules do not allow for culling, and I think my restrictions as far as sizes of fish are a little tighter than what even FWC calls for. So, it's a known thing up front, and it's actually illegal to cull redfish unless you have a permit to do it by powers to be. So that's it. With a limit of one. Once you put that fish in the boat, no matter whether that fish is still alive in the live well or the cooler or not, you cannot release that fish and catch it. You had possession of that one fish, period.
I got you.
And until we get the handcuffs out.
I applaud your stance. I really do. Ray, thanks so much for a great report, and I certainly pray that red tide loses its grip on you. And how about if we check in next week and see how you're doing?
Well, I'm glad I got help from prayers from your side of the fact, because I'm sitting here getting scabs on my knees. All right.
Oh man, I know you are, buddy. I know you are. I hope it's gone soon.
You and me both.
All right.
I got to go on my trip for tomorrow. We'll talk to you later.
Next week. Bye-bye. Now, let's skip right on over to the northwest corner of the state and check in with Captain Kevin Lanier. Kevin, how are you?
I'm doing great, Captain Rick. How about you tonight?
Doing okay. Doing just fine. Tell me about your fishing lately.
Well, we had a couple-day lull with the red snapper bite. We had no current in the mornings for about 3 days in a row, and when we get no current like that, it turns the red snapper off for some reason, but it lit up like fire the last 2 days. Good quality fish. We wound up today with 2 blackfin tuna again today, and the biggest one of those weighed 31 pounds on the scale.
Oh, that's a fat one. That was a long fight, by the way.
It was on a spinning rod that was set up for a flat line. It was a fight, so a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
We wound up with those, and we got a nice big king again today. Our flat line's been hot as can be, but fish bite's been really well. Looks like we're going to have the weather turn a little bit, but fishing's great right now.
Oh, that's great. Your red snapper is still holding up. You've been fishing on them now for about a month, right?
Yeah, we've been on them about a month and a half, actually, and we've had to get a little more. We have to do a little more searching. Some of the usual spots, they get pounded on pretty hard, and we have about 2 more weeks left in the recreational season. Federal season for us goes to August 3rd, so as that water warms up and things like that, those bigger fish tend to move out, and the closer in spots, they get hit pretty hard, so we have to look a little harder.
Kevin, your limit over there is 1 or 2 on red snapper?
2 per person, 16-inch minimum length, totally.
All right. First drop of the morning, your angler drops down. He catches a 16.5-inch red snapper that is hooked badly. He's that circle hook, or if you're using a circle hook, whatever, it's got him right in the stomach. What happens next?
He goes in the bag.
Okay.
He goes in the box.
All right. There's no culling, huh?
No, not really. I mean, what I try to do is get around per person before we even start thinking about calling. And we make the call before we ever pull the fish in the boat. If the fish is hooked badly, it's going in the box regardless. But I'll tell you something unusual that's been happening to us lately. The red snapper are swallowing those live baits. We're not getting those corner mouth hooks like you look forward to on the circle hooks. They're engulfing those baits, and I've been amazed. I bet we've cut off 20 hooks in the last week because we can't get the hook out of the red snapper.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, I've seen the same thing in our short little 3-day season here, and circle hooks are the greatest invention in the world when they work like they're supposed to. But boy, when they gulp them, when they swallow them, they are a disaster.
Well, the sad part about the whole thing is that, you're exactly right. What I was trying to say was, when those fish are really aggressive, and we've been using a lot of what I call one bite bait, which are those little pinfish that are, fit in the palm of your hand.
Mm-hmm.
They tear those up.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it's hard to guarantee their survival if they swallow that circle hook. That's for darn sure. But we have caught them. We have caught them before that had swallowed circle hooks in them.
Oh yeah, we've got them. In fact, we got one a couple days ago that 2 people on my boat both hooked at the same time. They reeled them up together.
He wasn't the smartest fish in the school.
No, not at all. Not at all. No.
He was not the valedictorian of his school. Okay.
No, not everybody graduated, but some people just made a 70.
That's it. I know one too. He's on this conversation, and it's not you.
Well, don't always think that.
What are you hearing from the inshore guys? It's just too hot, isn't it?
Still too hot, but I tell you what, we are starting to see redfish come across.
Oh, good.
My buddy's an inshore guy, and he got a limit of mangroves. He got a nice cobia, a few trout. So they're around. And the flounder are here. Just so much focus right now on red snapper. We got a few guys that like to fish the inshore stuff, and they're starting to pick up.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. All right, Kevin, that's a fantastic report. And as always, we appreciate it. Hope we can talk with you next week.
We'll be back next week. Look forward to talking to you.
You got it. Thank you, Captain Kevin Lanier. Kevin puts a wrap on tonight's podcast, and gosh, it's been an interesting week, I tell you. Up in Northeast Florida, everybody was going crazy over the red snapper in the 3-day season, and it was tremendous, there's no doubt. But in the meantime, the Ancient City Kingfish tournament went on. It was successful. There are fish back on the beach. Pogies are easy on the beach right now, and there's a lot of kings, there's a lot of sharks, and a handful of tarpon to be had. And I was kind of interested by the number of mahi that were caught by snapper fishermen over the weekend. Boats that anchored oftentimes had schools of mahi swim up under them and spice up the catch a little bit. You move down to East Central, and Captain Jim Ross was really pretty happy about the condition of his inshore fishing. Said he and his wife Robin had no trouble getting grand slams this week, and things were relatively good, but they were poor offshore. Now you get down to Stewart, and Captain John Earhart said the sailfish boats all of a sudden have picked back up to 6 to 10 fish a day. Boy, that's got me in a traveling kind of mood. I'm tempted to run down there and catch just a few more before we close out this summer bite. And he also reported very good spawning snook season, but he really wanted to urge guys not to sit on those fish a long time. Get 1 or 2 spawners, let them go, and let them get back to their business. Everybody was talking about culling this week, and I just had that thought because I saw so many red snapper get culled over the weekend that didn't make it, and what everybody's practice was on it. And I was amazed. All our guides kind of agreed the same, that they do not allow their people to cull fish. Now, there's a few exceptions to that. You get a super healthy redfish, and it's your first one, it's early in the morning, and he's doing well in the well. Yeah, well, maybe I can sort of see it. But, man, this practice of reaching into an ice chest and grabbing a 5-pound red snapper and throwing it over because you just caught a 15-pounder, that's despicable. I'm sorry, there's no other way to describe it. Down in Miami, Captain Alan Sherman says things are slow. The warm water had forced the mahi and everything else further offshore and made it tough. Their bottom fishing, fortunately, has picked up, and more guys are concentrating on bottom fishing in South Florida and doing better with it. Switch over to 10,000 Islands. Mr. Enthusiasm himself, Captain Steve Dahl, said their fishing is very good. He and Greg Stamper both are seeing plenty of tarpon action from the juveniles early in the morning to the bigger fish late in the day. Ray Markham, bless his heart, more trouble with red tide. All this rain has increased their red tide. It is headed south, and it is starting to become a factor for his charters. They're having a hard time finding a place that's easy to fish without the irritation of fishing in red tide air and, of course, red tide water, which affects an awful lot of fish. Come on up through the panhandle, and things are good. The red snapper have held up very well for Captain Kevin Lanier. He's continuing to do well with them. How about another pair of blackfin tuna today? One of them over 30 pounds. That is a mean mammer jammer right there, a 30-pound blackfin tuna, I promise you. Hey, it's been a good week for Florida. We got no bad weather on the horizon we can see other than afternoon thunderstorms, but that's standard fare for us this time of year. Sure hope the big storms stay away. But one thing you can count on, we'll be back next week with another Florida Sportsman Action Spotter and let you know just what's going on around the state. The Florida Sportsman Action Spotter is brought to you each and every week by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Shimano, bringing people and nature together. By Tournament Master Chum, the best chum on earth. By Nosara Paradise Rentals, your dream vacation. By D.O.A. Lures, the unfair advantage. And, of course, by Young Boats. You want the finest in flat spay and offshore hybrids? You need to check out youngboats.com. For Florida Sportsman Magazine, I'm Captain Rick Riles, and we'll see you on the river.